Hey folks, welcome to the Whiskey Cove. Today, in collaboration with Men's Journal, I'm giving you 5 whiskeys that will impress your whiskey friends. Not just with labels, but with real flavor, history, and respect. There's a difference between bringing just any bottle and bringing the one that gets everyone's attention in the room. That pour that shuts up the room for just a second and has people texting you the next day about what that bottle was. So let's get into it. So we're gonna start strong with Four Roses Single Barrel Bourbon, ideally the OBSV recipe. This bottle has some serious Bourbon Street cred, with a mash bill of 60% corn, 35% rye and 5% malted barley, bottled at 50% ABV or 100 proof. It delivers a richness, yet structure right out of the gate. That 35% rye in that mash bill gives it a distinct edge, spicy, herbal, and bold, while the high corn keeps it grounded with natural sweetness. Now, here's what makes it really special for me. Four Roses is the only major distillery using 10 unique recipes, combining 2 mash bills and 5 yeast strains. OBSV uses mash bill B, the high-rye one, and yeast strain V or 5, known for its delicate fruitness. That combo creates a beautiful balanced bourbon with layers of cherry, cinnamon, apple, and floral spice. And the history? Well, Four Roses dates back to 1888 and became one of the biggest names in American whiskey. But for decades, their bourbon wasn't even sold in the US. After Prohibition, the company shifted focus to the overseas markets, primarily in Japan, and filled really the American market with blended whiskey under the same name. It wasn't really until the early 2000s under new ownership that Four Roses came roaring back with its true Kentucky bourbon. And you know what? Bourbon lovers took notice. Today, Four Roses Single Barrel is quite a flex. It's not flashy, but people who know, they know. It's one of those bottles that bourbon nerds respect, newer drinkers fall in love with, and seasoned collectors still keep in rotation, much like I do. So if you're bringing a bottle to impress, this one really checks every box. Flavor, heritage, credibility, and some real sense of complexity too. That was Four Roses Single Barrel Bourbon. Next up is Redbreast 12 Cask Strength, a bottle that isn't just impressive, it's quite educational. Because once you've tasted this, you will understand what Irish whiskey is really truly capable of. So Redbreast's story goes all the way back to the 1900s. Originally owned and bottled by W.A. Gibley & Co., a wine and spirits merchant out of Dublin, Ireland. They were sourcing spirit from Old Jameson and Bow Street Distillery, and Redbreast became known as the priest's bottle because it was so often favoured by clergy. That should tell you something about its quiet power. Today, Redbreast is made at the Middleton Distillery in County Cork, and actually the same place that produces Jameson's, but this isn't a blend, it's not light grassy Irish whiskey. This is pure pot still, uniquely Irish style that combines malted and unmalted barley, triple distilled in copper pot stills. The unmalted barley gives a body of spice and depth, setting it apart from blended Irish drams. Then the Cask Strength version of Redbreast 12 takes all the beloved flavors of Redbreast and the standard expression and really dials them up. Around 57% ABV, it bursts with figs, dates, hazelnuts, toasted oak and bacon spices with a little drizzle of honey and sherry soaked fruits along the way. In both bourbon and first fill Oloroso barrels is how the whiskey is finished and maturated too, so it'll take on some of those flavor profiles as well. But here's the trick. Despite its strength, the ABV, 57%, the mouthfeel is creamy and shockingly smooth. It's layered and long-lasting, with a warming finish that never overwhelms. This bottle tells people you didn't just grab a name you've heard of. You brought something with craft, heritage, and intensity. It's a masterclass in Irish whiskey, and for any drinker who still thinks Irish whiskey is soft and simple, this bottle changes their mind. This next one makes a statement. Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof whiskey. It's the heavy-hitter version of the most famous and well-known American brand, Jack Daniel's. Founded in 1866, Jack Daniel's is actually America's oldest registered distillery. And while most people know the classic black label Old Number 7, this barrel-proof version is on a whole different level. Trust me. It's unfiltered, uncut, and comes straight from hand-selected barrels, often around 130 proof. It can vary from 120 to 130 proof, given that it is a single barrel. And with a mash bill of 80% corn, 12% malted barley, and 8% rye. Expect molasses, some brown sugars, definitely some banana notes, and some toasted oak and cinnamon, and with a deep, smoky, char-esque finish, if you like. It's really bold, it's really rich, and it's far more refined than most people expect when they see Jack Daniel's on the label. If you bring this, then you're no casual drinker. Now, if you want to command some instant respect from Scotch drinkers, you will pull out Lagavulin 16. Founded in 1816, Lagavulin is one of the oldest licensed distilleries in Scotland. It sits tucked into a little cove on the southwest coast of Islay, right next to the ruins of Dunivay Castle, and is the setting of just as broad and as iconic as the whiskey inside of the bottle. In the 19th century, Lagavulin rose to prominence of one of the classic malts of Scotland. But it wasn't until the late 20th century, with the launch of the classic Malts of Scotland series by Diageo, that Lagavulin 16 really earned global recognition, and it became the benchmark of peated single malt, coming in at 43% ABV or 86 proof with a mash bill of 100% malted barley. It's intense, it's smoky, and it is unapologetically traditional. But what makes Lagavulin 16 so special isn't just the peat, it's the elegance and structure behind the smoke. And here's the thing, for a lot of people, Lagavulin 16 is just a great scotch. It's a rite of passage. It's the bottle that turns, I don't like smoke whiskey, into, okay, that's incredible. If you bring this to a share, you're not just going to be bringing flavor, you're going to be bringing heritage, prestige, and one of the most iconic peated whiskies ever made, hands down. This is the kind of scotch that makes an impression and always a memory. And then lastly, to wrap this thing all up with a really nice bow on it, we're going with power and pedigree. Old Forester 1920 Prohibition Style, a bottle that brings both historic weight and bold flavor. Old Forester is one of the most legendary names in bourbon. Founded in 1870, it was the very, very first bottled bourbon. No bourbon had ever been bottled up until this point. It was considered as a little bit of a radical move at the time, and a big reason why the brand gained a reputation for consistency and quality. Because back then, a lot of people were cutting the barrels and you didn't quite know what you were getting. But Old Forester decided to put it into bottles, sealing the bottles up so then no one could tamper with them. Then again, bringing that consistency and quality. And what really sets Old Forester apart is this, really. This was one of only 6 distilleries legally allowed to continue producing whiskey during the Prohibition under a medical license. So yes, if you had a doctor's note in the 1920s, you could walk into a pharmacy and claim your bottle of Old Forester. I think I would be getting quite a few doctor's notes if I was down in the 1920s. So this 1920 Prohibition Style release is part of the brand's Whiskey Row series, which pays tributes to different eras in the company's long and interrupted history. This expression is meant to replicate the kind of whiskey they were bottling during the time of the Prohibition. Uncut and intense, just like it would have come out of the barrel. At 57.5% ABV or 115 proof, it's a powerhouse. It's also surprisingly really composed. You get waves of rich dark chocolate, cherry syrup, toasted oak, brown sugar. It's really flavor forward. With that, you get some cinnamon and barrel spice notes there too, and a little bit of roasted coffee on the back end. But despite its ABV and proof, there's a real balance and polish here. No harsh edges, just a full-bodied, flavorful bourbon that knows exactly what it's doing. Bring this bottle to a bottle share and just put it down on the counter, let it speak for itself. It says, I know my bourbon history, and I brought a bottle that can hang with the best of them. This is one of those pours that wins over the high proof fans and really surprises the lower proof sippers. And more often than not, someone asks where they can get a bottle even before half the bottle is gone. So there you have it, folks. 5 bottles that'll impress any whiskey drinker in the room. From Kentucky to Ireland, Tennessee to Islay, these whiskeys bring heritage, character, flavor that all speak for themselves. They tell stories, spark conversation, and make good people say, damn, that's amazing. Well, there you have it, folks. Until next time, sip well, share often, and if you want to see more of this space, go and check me out on YouTube at The Whiskey Cove. Cheers.